A federal judge has rejected the request by former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro to dismiss his drug trafficking case. The ousted leader appeared in court alongside his wife, Celia Flores, yesterday. Both have pleaded not guilty. CBS News national correspondent Lilia Luciano was there. You were inside the courtroom. What stood out to you seeing them there in person, and what happened yesterday?
It was first thing that stood out. I have been covering Maduro for so long, and I've tried to interview Maduro when I was in Venezuela covering the election. Everything that has happened in Venezuela over the last 2 years has been year and a half has been cataclysmic. So seeing this figure in person for the first time, personally and as a journalist, was striking. I expected him to look weaker. He didn't. He looked strong. He lost weight. He looked healthy. Celia, his wife, also, even though her attorneys brought up that she's dealing with some heart issues and they want her to have an EKG, or she has had EKGs and they want to follow up on that. The judge was fine with that. They both seemed calmer, confident than the first time. The first time Maduro said, "I'm a prisoner of war. I'm still the president of Venezuela.
Yeah.
I am a decent man."
Right.
This time, and I am innocent, he said too. This time he didn't speak other than greeting his attorneys very warmly. Those were kind of the highlights. What stood out to me too, and this is something that Katrina Kaufman and I were talking about after, I asked her and she asked me, I said, no, I never saw this. They walked in through the same door. I'm not sure if they were held in the same cell. On the other side of that of that courtroom, there's the cell. They walked in together, hands behind their back, but not cuffed, with the marshals and their attorneys. I never saw them make eye contact with each other. That I thought was interesting. Celia Flores has been not just Maduro's wife. She has been a figure of the regime and held positions of power even while Hugo Chavez was the president of Venezuela. So they both have a lot of information, a lot of history, have been married for a long time, have a lot of I guess, things to say that the attorneys might be interested in.
Are you
I don't want to make assumptions
theorizing
or
that perhaps
anything.
there could be a rift?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they talked behind the scenes and hugged and loved each other. Who knows? I didn't know. I didn't see anything.
Or
that
they
happened
could turn
outside.
on each other, because that does happen.
But that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not in the business of making those assumptions. But I did think it was interesting that they did not make eye contact. But they both looked. Actually, they looked really good. He looked healthier than I saw him. So don't go by the sketches. My mom was asking me. He looked terrible. And I'm like, all due respect to the sketch artist in person, he was shining.
Yeah.
So break down for the audience the main argument over the case. It's over legal fees. Help me understand that.
That was the main thing. There were a few things being discussed. One important aspect of this is who gets to see the evidence. You have to keep in mind that there are co-defendants in this case who are still in power. People like Diosdado Cabello, who is still the Minister of the Interior, who is negotiating deals with the U.S. while being a fugitive with a $25 million bounty on his head. The judge...
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is what the administration is doing in this transition in Venezuela. And the judge did highlight how unique the series of circumstances and how different, unusual this case is. But Vlad, to answer your question, the main thing, which the judge said, I'm not going to dismiss the case, and everybody laughed, because what the prosecution is trying to do is say, look, they can't afford their defense. It's too burdensome on U.S. taxpayers. It has to go to the government of Venezuela, who's offering to pay. But the U.S. sanctions on Venezuela are preventing the government of Venezuela to pay for their defense. Therefore, it needs to be dismissed. The judge said, I'm not going to dismiss this case. Find a solution to this. The solution, the most immediate solution, and what I think we all expect might happen, is the government of the United States, in terms of the prosecution, the state, would likely go back to the Treasury Department and say, give me the license that will allow for his fees to be covered by the government of Venezuela in spite of those sanctions. Because, by the way, we are in business with them. Venezuela has made $18 billion in deals from the U.S. since Maduro was removed. The judge said, oh, the problem is fixed in Venezuela. What's the point of the sanctions? The problem is not fixed in Venezuela. I mean, there's a lot of issues for why the U.S. still has those sanctions in place. But that is what we expect will happen next. License granted, fees covered, this moves to an eventual trial.
So potentially the government of Venezuela can pay for the legal fees for their former president, who's in U.S. custody, and also a co-defendant with the leaders of Venezuela who are still in place.
And the only reason this is happening is because he refused to acknowledge the results as evidence that he lost the election in 2024. So we can talk to the Venezuelan taxpayers about how they feel about that, too.
Lilia with the breakdown.
Yes,
Thank you so
thank you,
much.
Lilia.
Riveting.